What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Game Show presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-hosts, Josh and John Luke. What's up, boys?
As always, we're always here. We never leave.
Let's go. I've
decided to be more careful with my adjectives in the intro because I accidentally insulted Josh last week. I used an adjective that I thought was positive, but upon reviewing my SAT vocab words, poop head shit face is not as positive as I thought it was.
So really?
My feelings.
I got to change it up. Guys, joining us today, making his return is a great friend of the show and very special guest. We've got Andrew Metcalf with us. For those of you that do not know Andrew, you can find him on Twitter at DrewMet_FF. It is right there below his handsome face on the screen. He's a dynasty writer for Club Fantasy FFL and Real Deal Fantasy. And we are so hyped to have you on today, my man.
Appreciate it. It's a feel-good Monday. I'm glad I can brighten up the start of the week with the fellas.
You brighten up
first
every week
with y'all too.
Is this number 4, Andrew, that you've been on our show, or number 3?
At least
so many
4, maybe
good times.
5.
At least 6,
like
maybe.
Count,
Who knows?
Right,
We've done
maybe an alternate.
We've done
universe,
Fantasy Spy.
You've owned the company in it all
before
3
that.
years.
This is the 4th one, I think. This is Andrew's 4th time on the show.
Number 4.
That's respectable. That's very
At least
respectable.
this is something I can't officially lose in.
You can put it on LinkedIn now, I think.
People will say my team will suck, but at least I won't have the least amount of points.
No, I'm making a competition out of it. I personally challenge you to even try to draft a better team than me today. It's not happening. I'm feeling good. This is going to be the
good
team
news
everyone wants to draft.
Andrew, even if Josh says his team is better, you can go, well, it's dynasty. So you can say, well, mine's just not a winning team.
Absolutely.
Like I didn't build. I'm building for the future.
That's
Josh.
why I'm a dynasty analyst in the first place. You're never wrong. You're just too early. That's it.
No one's going back that
just too early.
Always push off accountability. It's
no one cares about my Derrick Henry takes 4 years ago.
Rebuild mode.
And I hope no one knows about him. So.
Yeah.
Craig, what's up? Welcome in. He's like they drew it up. Pretty good, Craig. Pretty good.
I actually kind of like that one, guys.
Justin, what's up? Welcome in. Glad to have you here. And Alex saying best joke yet, Craig. Giving you an A+ for that one.
A lot of love
James
for that
said,
one.
wowza, no ad today. You two must be feeling generous. Or
we forgot to turn on monetization.
Probably forgot to turn on monetization.
Damn it, JL. Where am I going to get my 10 cents today? Z2 in here said the question is, will Z2 hate his team again, or will Z2 actually like his team this time?
Where's he drafting?
Tune in today.
Oh, you're too close to me, Z2. I'm going to be sniping you all day. Watch out, Z2.
Oh, dude.
Josh,
that's what
Z2
we like to call
is
a tease in the industry.
He's the king of sniping you. I feel like Z2 snipes you maybe more than anybody else whenever he mocks draft.
He absolutely does. I know he's going to be sniping me. There's no doubt about it.
Mr. Scampers, meow, welcome in. Dame. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dame. Glad to have you here. And NBA Rig, excited you're in the chat with us today. Scott Fish, the man himself, excited for today's game show.
We told you it is a game show. It's me versus Andrew, who has a better team. I'm glad you came.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Jay Wall already cheered for Andrew in the chat. And Scott said that's why I tune into the Fantasy Football Game Show. Super excited. Well, this is a game of some sorts. It's a game preparing for it. This is like if we did all the setup for a board game and then didn't play it, is what we're doing here. Like we've got this really complex board game that's going to take probably days because we don't have the patience to finish it in one sitting. Maybe even about 17 weeks, but we're just not going to play it. We're just going to set it up. And Mr. Skimmer says it's Dr. PHSF to you. What does the PH stand for? I know the Scott Fish. The fish to you. Whatever. We'll figure you out, Mr. Scampers. That must be an inside cat joke. Nolan, welcome in. Glad to have you here.
Cat joke. Ugh.
And QI saying, is this live? This is live. We are live.
Never
We're right
live.
here. Yeah. In fact, it's a weakness of ours. We're live too often. Alex said I also did not get an ad.
Yeah,
Yep.
by the way, go ahead and reload the page now. Reload the page so we can get our money. Because monetization has been turned on.
I bet someone's going to do it.
What's up, Twin? Welcome in. Glad to have you here. And Joey said, where's the good-looking guy with the books behind him? I don't know, but the good-looking guy with the movies behind him is missing.
I miss him.
Yeah, we're missing him. Instead, we got this guy with someone else's football trophy behind him back this week.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about because there's two of us.
Guys, before we get started with our mock draft, a couple reminders. Number one, if you are not already following our friend Andrew, go and fix that right now. He's on Twitter at DrewMet_FF. Fix that right this instant. After you do that, if you're on this, that means you are already watching our if you're watching this video, that means you're already on our YouTube channel. Go and hit that like button on this video and make sure you subscribe to our channel at Front Yard Fantasy. And go check us out on TikTok. We're on TikTok at Front Yard FYF. Josh's handsome face is all over it. Like, I don't know if you need another reason to go follow over there.
If you need some information about rookies, you're going to find it on our page. Like, if you play fantasy football, you're doing dynasty rookie drafts, you just want some strengths and weaknesses, check it out. Check it out.
A little bit of Josh
actually
in your life.
On here too, so on YouTube too. So
yeah, that's a little too on the nose for me. Alex got an ad for The Athletic. I liked it better when it was like baked beans and Gucci. That was
baked beans and Gucci.
We're pretty sure we've gotten both of those at least reported from the chat. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our draft for today. I'm gonna pull up the draft board. Today we are doing a Superflex Dynasty startup draft, and this is going to include rookies. So the rookies are going to be in here. You're going to have to factor that into ADP as you're going through and picking your players right here. The roster construction for this league is 1 quarterback slot, 2 running back slots, 3 wide receiver slots, a tight end, a flex, and a super flex. Super flex meaning that you can start, the tightest flex, JL. And then that super flex, that's, tightest end. I said the wrong word. I guess your flex could be tight depending on maybe you draft Zach Ertz late in the draft and he fills that slot for you. But the super flex slot can be a QB, running back, wide receiver, or tight end, unlike your traditional flex spot, which can only be a wide receiver, running back, or tight end. So it's probably in your best interest to start 2 quarterbacks. So the value of quarterbacks goes way up. This is PPR. Outside of that, the main scoring setting being super flex. Point per reception. So every time a player catches the ball, they will get an additional point as well. I just explained that, JL. I'm going to kick you off this show unless you ask questions.
Very informational.
Earnestly.
I thought they said no stupid questions.
No, JL, you're drafting from the 2 spot. Josh, you're drafting from the 5 spot. And Andrew, it looks like you were drafting from the 10 spot. So we got some distance between you guys.
Snipe him.
Rookie mistake.
Andrew.
Josh, you're really going to have to.
Yeah. Hey, switch with me, twin. Switch with me.
Real quick.
I had to stay far away from y'all.
Your brother can snipe, Drew.
Yeah. I'll just text him picks.
Yeah, you just text your brother. You guys ready to go and get this draft started?
Yep.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
Brady's got the first pick, 1 minute, and there's no green circle. Don't do this to us, Brady. You got this. Also, Dave said, Simon, are you not drafting? I am not drafting today. I'll be commentating on it. And Joey said, please don't kick JL off the show. But if you do, I'm setting up my camera now.
Twins got me on the snipes.
We missed
I'm going to just throw out like players that should be drafted just to really screw over Andrew. Like someone will draft him. Like right after
Jill,
my
now
pick,
that you're on the
hey,
clock,
I can't believe this guy's still on the board.
I was going to try to ask you a question while you were drafting, JL. JL went Patrick Mahomes with the 2nd overall pick. JL, does that mean Patrick Mahomes is your number 2 quarterback in Dynasty?
Probably, yep.
Ahead of Herbert, Murray, Jackson, Burrow, Dak.
Yeah. Now that the more I say it, the more I believe it. He's definitely my number 2.
He's a tier. Those top 3 quarterbacks that just went, if they made it to my 5th pick right here, I would have taken one of the top 3. I love a few more quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, but I'm going to try to play the game. I'm going to take what I believe to be last tier of wide receiver here with Justin Jefferson. You know, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are a tier of wide receiver. So I'm just going to run with this and see how it goes.
Perfect.
And yeah, if I can leave a super flex draft with one of these top QBs or one of the top wide receivers, I'm happy. I'm very happy.
That's what I'm looking for. That's why I took the 5th spot.
Are you defining those 5? Are those 5 players the 5? Like, is that who you're talking about, or is there more in that bunch or less?
I don't know if I would put Herbert fully in that tier yet with those 2 guys. I think I have him grouped with that 2nd tier of quarterbacks: the Kyler Murrays, the Lamar Jacksons, the Joe Burrows.
And were either one of you tempted to take Jonathan Taylor? We've seen him go as high as 1st overall in some of our Dynasty Superflex mocks already.
Nope.
Tempted, sure. Like, you know, he's like part of this. If someone wanted to draft Jonathan Taylor, like Josh Allen, number 1, I really do want those first 3 quarterbacks off the board first in a 12-team Superflex league. But if you wanted to take Jonathan Taylor after that, you're not going to hear a word from me. I think that's perfectly fair. He sets himself apart in the position. You know, he stays healthy. He's awesome. He's got a great situation, and he's just got great talent. So I mean, he checks all the boxes. I love boxes.
He checks every single box right there.
He really does.
Our second running back. I've found the running back position in dynasty drafts to be so interesting this year. Just like it's Jonathan Taylor, and then it seems like I don't know. No, what I mean? Like it could be
Najee Harris.
This is a case for like 3 or 4 of the guys after him.
Yeah, it could be Najee Harris or 4 other guys that I won't mention, so nobody yells at me until they're drafted.
I'll say this. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say Z2, speaking of names that we're saying too early, but we're a couple rounds out, so hopefully it's not that early. So someone has to draft Mike Evans at value for Simon today. I'm sure somebody will, Z2. I'm sure somebody will.
Najee Harris for me. I'm just a little bit nervous. So like he's only played 1 year in the NFL, but he's 24 years old, and he's just not going to see as many targets or really carries, I believe, as he did last year. So
most opportunities of any running back in the NFL job.
Of any position player, not just running back. He had the most touches out of any player that wasn't a quarterback in the NFL.
Austin Eckler like receiving work, and Jonathan Taylor like rushing work. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be as much, but that's
Ben Roethlisberger. That's his game. That's all he could do last year was throw short passes, and Najee Harris was there. So that'll be the big thing happen this year, right?
I'm just not confident in Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett to.
That's the thing.
Bombers.
That's well, the whole offense is just going to be different. Ben Roethlisberger got the snap. Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, who's open right away? Like that's what his offense was. It's just going to be different, right?
How do
you feel about this, Andrew?
Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
How do you feel about Najee Harris and this offense?
So I'm kind of with you. I think it'll definitely depend on what his receiving volume is. Again, I don't think it's going to be the same whether it is Pickett or Mitch that end up behind center. It won't be the same at what he was getting with Ben. And again, he's not the most efficient. And that's not anything that's a huge knock to me for running backs. I mean, as long as they're getting the volume, but I think he could easily end up being kind of more of that David Montgomery type. That's the borderline RB 1 or 2. So I'm probably won't have much of them in like top 3 or 4.
I'm just wondering if they why even draft Najee Harris in the first round. It's not like they're surprised by Big Ben retiring, right? Like they knew they were going to have to do something this season that it would change, and so it's hard for me to believe that they would make that move, like such a short-sighted move without. Really,
especially a team like the Steelers.
Yeah, a team like the Steelers, which is proven to be
Najee's going to be their running back 1. I've no doubt that the Steelers are going to have him out on the field as much as they did last year. It's just the number of plays they ran last year is going to decrease, in my opinion, significantly. That's just what you see with rookie quarterbacks. They're just decision-making isn't the same as Ben Roethlisberger's arm was shot last year, but his mind was still there. He's still a Hall of Fame quarterback. He knows what he had to do what he could do the best. That's just my opinion. It's just he's again, Najee Harris, the most touches we already said out of any player in the league last year. I just really think that's going to decrease. He's going to be 25 next year, and he's a first round value in Dynasty right now. That's why I would classify him as a sell.
That's fair.
I'm not saying he's going to be. I still think he'll be a running back 1 this year. So I still am confident in it. Just
low end.
I think his value is going to be a steady, slight decrease from here on out.
Do you think the fact that he got into the league later than at a later age than other running backs, do you think that affects his longevity at all?
He was used very heavy in college as well.
Mm-hmm. So you think it just evens out?
Although I actually like that though, because that's what they said about JT. And again, he's only 2-3 years in his career, but a lot of times when they show that they can be used a lot in college and hold up, that actually ends up being a good sign. But,
yeah,
Najee Harris isn't near the athlete of JT and is the offensive line, one of the best compared to one of the worst offensive lines in the league that are running behind. So
I was just saying as far as the longevity, because you brought up his workload, just that specific piece. But if
you put Najee Harris on the Colts and Jonathan Taylor on the Steelers right now, I'm a lot more excited about Najee Harris and a lot less excited about JT. Let's put it that way.
Man, I think he'll hold up. I'm not really concerned about the age.
I'm not concerned about it this year. I'm concerned about him in 2 years being a 26 going on 27-year-old running back. And what's the value? Those guys' value drop pretty significantly.
Building a startup around that guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the point I was going to make, Josh. Yeah. This seems more like a dynasty tip, more just it's harder. If you're going to go running back early, like a Najee Harris or a Jonathan Taylor early, that doesn't mean it's a bad pick. which means you need to be realistic about what that means for the window of your team. You're going all in to try to win this year, next year, because you don't know what the shelf life looks like beyond that for a lot of these players when they're the age that Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor are, right?
Like you
JL, I saw you make a face. Do you disagree with that?
I think I more so disagree with like I feel like there's like a reflex like reaction to anytime you get like a player who is labeled as win now to be like, all right, now you have to go with this win now strategy. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think like it just means you're going to have to, like, I think I agree with your fundamental point here, Simon, which is like you have to be aware of that and you need to then balance your team in the other direction. Whether you take that strategy of like you got to win now in the next year or two, or if you just maybe take a more moderate approach to that balance.
See, what do you mean by moderate approach? Because I feel like moderate approach is a lot of times how you get stuck as a middling team long-term in Dynasty. You take a couple of these guys that are older and then maybe some young new guys that are going to get better. But then by the time your older running backs phase out, your young wide receivers are succeeding. Like I'm more of them. Like I don't want to do any of this moderate in Dynasty startups. I want to draft a team where the only thing I'm considering is win now, right now. Are they the best position today to help me win or kind of build for this future? And that doesn't mean a built for the future team can't also win now, right? We've seen good examples of that in the draft where you have these teams with like a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, maybe a Travis Etienne, a J.K. Dobbins, a Darnell Mooney. That can very much be a win now team. And you can draft some of those same players, but maybe like an Adam Thielen is a type of player that you're really trying to get a value on if you went JT and you're building around these young running backs instead of building around young quarterbacks or young wide receivers. I think it changes your back end of draft picks more than your front end of draft picks, probably, right? You're going to be taking the older guys. You might take Zeke in the 6th. You might take Adam Thielen in the 10th. You might take just these aging players who are going to get you points instead of like the Kadarius Tonys, the Gabriel Davises, the high upside, the Christian Kirks, these younger players that haven't maybe reached their full potential yet. Is more the point I was at. Because you know what, those first 6 rounds, I think like Cooper Kupp is older, but he's win now and he's going to be good for another couple of years, right? You can do both. Like it,
for sure.
It doesn't really affect those first 3, 4, 5 picks.
I think I understand what JL was saying as far as the moderate approach. Like I never want to go like literally all in on like this 1 year because so much could go wrong in Dynasty, and especially
a lot of variance.
From at least, I don't know, maybe I'll play in weird leagues, but from my experience, the best team on paper rarely wins it all. I mean, yeah, they'll make the playoffs, but you really just want to make the playoffs. Once that happens, is any week anything can happen. So you want to avoid those situations where you put so much pressure into winning that 1 year, because whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of times luck plays a major factor. So you kind of just want to give yourself like a good 2 or 3 year window versus just always being, all right, I gotta just win all right now. At least maybe that's what you're saying, JL, but that's kind of how I saw it.
JL and I have had this conversation before.
Simon?
Yeah. JL and I have had this conversation before where a difference in how we like to build some of these dynasty teams. And Andrew, I think you said we all agree luck plays a part in that finals. And I think the direction you and JL go is a different direction than me. Because luck plays a part, whenever I'm going for that win, I want to stack the deck in my favor as much as possible. And if it means I come in 12th because stuff went wrong, I'll come in 12th. Like a glass cannon is what I always called it. Yeah. Just like this glass cannon where if everything goes right, I've got the best shot at winning. But if things go wrong, I'm going to fall off quickly. But guys, we've had a lot of picks since the Najee Harris and then into draft strategy talk. Andrew, I wanted to ask you about your first 2 round picks. You got Lamar Jackson at the 10, which seems like a pretty big value on Lamar Jackson.
I think so. So when you're picking 9 or 10 or later, you're used to 8 or 9 straight quarterbacks going, and then you kind of get to the question marks. So if this was redraft and Lamar Jackson with the contract situation, I probably would have went a different direction. But in Dynasty, yeah, I'm taking a almost guaranteed top 5 quarterback at the back end of the first every time.
And then, Andrew, 2 more questions for you. The first one came from NBA. They want to know, which teams do you root for this season? We know who your team is, but let everyone know. You guys are celebrating still, I think.
Oh, yeah. The celebration has not ended. I'm an LA Rams fan. But I started back with the greatest show on turf days, like Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, late 90s, early 2000s. They left St. Louis. I left St. Louis, so I'm still rocking with the Rams.
It worked out. And then your second pick was the one I was really curious about. So you took A.J. Brown as the 4th overall wide receiver in the second round. He is on a new team in Philadelphia. Does that make you nervous at all? Obviously not too nervous if he's your 4th wide receiver off the board, right?
Yeah. So actually, I would say for this pick, if this was a real draft, I absolutely would have did everything I could to trade down. So like if I had
yes, Andrew, that was a great.
I had
too,
DeAndre
right there.
Swift and Kyle Pitts as my 2 options here. So when they went right in front of me, I was just like, I mean, out of all these guys, AJ Brown was the top choice just because, I mean, he's going to a low volume passing offense, but Tennessee was also a low volume passing offense. I think him having another, high end option at receiver across from him, like Devontae Smith, will be a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, just for the offense as a whole. So, again, the real draft, I would probably just trade down, but I still think AJ Brown could, be that elite wide receiver in Philly.
Another thing to your point there, Andrew, is that they paid him all the money in the world. They're even more motivated than
they have to make that move look good.
To make it look good. So I mean, they got a game plan around him. He's going to be the number 1 wide receiver, the number 1 just thing I think they game plan around, to make sure AJ Brown gets the ball in his hands 5 times a game at least,
Yep, just get it in his hands, like you said, because he's kind of like Debo. He makes things happen like on his own. You don't need Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes throwing to him. Just get him a decent ball and let him.
I've always been an AJ Brown just talent fan. He was my favorite wide receiver. Got drafted by the Titans, and I was like, oh no, blah, blah.
Have you seen the videos this offseason? He looks bigger. Like that is scary.
How does he look bigger?
You know what's more likely that everything around him got smaller.
Yeah,
right. That's true.
I can't imagine that he physically got bigger. I bet his car got smaller. His friends got smaller. The field got smaller.
Sorry.
Let me see. This is tough because this is when you start getting to the Asian running backs that are tempting, but then a year from now they could be worth nothing.
I can't believe the value that Twin just got on Diggs. Diggs in the 3rd round in a dynasty league seems absolutely absurd.
I just traded for Diggs yesterday.
While Andrew's making that pick,
I'm gonna do it.
JL. You took T. Higgins over Stephon Diggs, 2 players I know you really like, but that's a little bit surprising to me that you would take T over Stephon. Do you want to illuminate us a little bit on the thought process there?
Yeah, I actually, right after I made the pick, I moved T. Higgins above Stephon Diggs in my dynasty rankings because I didn't have him there. Josh made a really good point. I can't remember when it was. It happens so infrequently that I don't keep track of it. But Josh made a really good point about Stephon Diggs being, just when we think about, okay, who do I want to, when I'm in a dynasty startup, I'm thinking, who do I want to build this team around, right? Mm-hmm. And that helps me make those decisions between someone who like T. Higgins versus Stephon Diggs, where I'm like, they're close enough.
Diggs is going to score more points next year, right? Yeah, you would agree, right?
Right, exactly. But I would rather have the guy who's going to give me more value over a longer bit of time. That's going to allow me to pivot and be flexible and make moves in the next couple of years to set my team. I don't know how my team is going to look. I don't know what the strengths and weaknesses are going to be at this point in the draft in the 3rd round. I'm going to know more of that after this draft. And so I can make moves that address that. And so that was enough to really kind of change it. Josh made a really good point. He said,
I got one more point for you. You could make Deshaun Watson be on your team. What if he doesn't play next year? You don't want Stephon Diggs, a wasted year with Stephon Diggs then.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So T. Higgins makes a lot more sense for how you're building your team so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I hadn't even considered Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. T. Higgins is my highest owned dynasty player.
Oh, I think
that's awesome.
I think Travis Etienne is mine, but T. Higgins has to be close.
I think Lamar Jackson is mine. I'm like 99%.
I can't get Lamar Jackson in a league.
Well, every startup draft I did, I was taking him in the 1st round of every single one. Like
I have him on one team that's rebuilding, and now I'm kind of torn. I'm like, man, I kind of just want to hold on to him and see if I can come out in a couple years because I don't want to move him because his value is not what it should be right now.
It's where you drafted him in this draft.
He can be the QB1 overall still, I think.
I love taking Lamar where you took him. I think that's perfect. 9-10 spot. That's where I'm grabbing him all day right now.
Oh, dude.
If he was sitting there, I would have a hard time not drafting him with that 10th pick. Josh, Scott had a very important question for you. Harris or McNichols in PPR?
I read that and it made me laugh. I think he's referencing there was a tweet I made in the middle of last season when Derrick Henry went down. I said Jeremy McNichols will be a number 2 running back the rest of the season, or maybe just this week or something. I forget. I was shooting my shot. He was not that week or the rest of the season.
Not a bad call.
But I will say their running backs as a whole definitely was a number 2 running back.
There you go. Josh, NBA has another question for you, Josh. Says, how many touchdowns do you predict between Justin Jefferson and Thielen?
working on projections right now, NBA rigged. I have not gotten to the Minnesota Vikings yet, but I think they're like my next team. I'm on the Raiders right now. So how many is Jefferson? You got to predict that Jefferson has more than Thielen. I know Adam touchdown Thielen. Listen, I know he just scores touchdowns. That's what he does. But he's going to be 33 this upcoming season, and like Justin Jefferson coming into his third year. I'm not saying third year breakout. He's broken out twice already. He's fantastic. Justin Jefferson is just a much better receiver. When it comes down to it, just with the targets, I expect them both to get. Jefferson, they could easily both be double digits.
Over under 10 touchdowns for each of them. Go.
Let's take the over.
For both?
Yes.
Each. 10 touchdowns each.
If you made me choose Justin Jefferson over Adam Thielen, probably like 9 I'll have him projected for if I had to guess.
What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I would say the same. Little under for Thielen and over for Jefferson. And I use I'm not one of those guys that try to predict injuries or call the injury prone, but a lot of times with these receivers, once they start getting banged up in their 30s, it doesn't get much better.
Can't stop.
And I was burned a whole lot by Julio Jones, so I'm terrified about him Thielen.
What about instead of predicting either, but do you think this offense will be as productive for both of them next year? Because they reached 20 touchdowns combined this year. Do you think combined they hit 20 touchdowns again next year?
See why not.
100%. I love that over because I could see. Look, Thielen could do it. It's just like he's another year older. He had a season-ending injury last year. It's just like, you don't want to be caught holding the bag there. I think realistically, to be safe, it's like right around 9 is probably what you should project for Thielen. Oh, I'm up.
Yep. We got Joey in here. Joey said Trubisky's best season was one where he leaned a bit on his tight end. This is a Pat Fryer talk comment.
Then best season.
Dave said, I like Drew's first 2 picks the most. So whenever it was just Lamar Jackson, AJ Brown, he was a big fan of your draft. We'll have to see what Dave thinks now that you've added Barkley and Metcalf to that team. Andrew, are you worried at all about Barkley as an aging running back or maybe the downturn we've seen in his career because of the injuries, or do you think he's going to come back just as strong?
I mean, I think what we saw from him, at least the beginning of 2021, before the second random ankle roll, is what we should have expected. Now, I admit I was one of those guys that was, hyping him up, just thinking he would kind of have that AP instant return. But I mean, he had 2 15, 20 plus point fantasy games and then 2 bad games that first week. We should have expected him coming off an ACL like that. So I feel like this year coming in, he has a improved offensive line, definitely an improved scheme, and he's coming on like 2 years now coming off that ACL. So and that's usually kind of that 10 to 18 months or 12 to 18 months is when they say you get back to or start feeling back to yourself. So yeah, I'm back all in on Barkley having that that top 5 season what we saw from him before.
I'm with you. Maybe not calling for top 5, but I'm with you that we're seeing a big bounce back from him and he's being drafted a little bit too late. But I like that pick. Josh, you just drafted double wide receivers. You went Javonte Williams in the second. We haven't talked since your first round pick since Jefferson. You went Javonte Williams, Jalen Waddle, Chris Godwin here, with Javonte being the 5th running back off the board for you. Is this you buying in that he's going to take over significantly more work from Melvin Gordon this year? Or is this more just of a talent and Gordon will be out of the way eventually kind of pick?
I think Javonte's, he'll get more carries. He'll get more carries, more touches this season than Melvin Gordon. They were about even last year. I think Gordon edged him out slightly, actually. I think they actually had the same exact amount of rushing yards, if I remember. Yep. But I think Gordon actually had a few more catches. But I think Javonte does take over as more of the 1A. Gordon's going to be involved. He's still going to probably get close to as many catches. I really do believe that Javonte Williams takes over more of the carries. But like I said, Gordon's going to be involved. So Javonte was pretty darn good last year. In redraft, I would not take him here. I think he's being overvalued in redraft leagues. But he's proven the talent. And, for Dynasty, my team, I'm building. I think I'm building pretty young. You can say Chris Godwin's not that young, 26. I think he's fine. I like my core so far a lot.
I like your core as well. The Javonte pick, I think, is maybe got a little bit more risk than your other picks, but not without reason, right? There's also some very serious upside to get Javonte right there. I got in trouble the other day for saying, and by in trouble, I just mean people disagreed with me heavily for saying Javonte was going to be a redraft bust this year.
He's going
ADP,
to be,
but
he's going to be a redraft bust at his ADP.
He's being drafted so high. He's being drafted way too high. I feel like with Melvin Gordon still being there.
Yeah.
At least that's how I feel about it.
He's being drafted as like a top 8 running back, right, or something like that.
Right, he's still been drafted right as if Melvin Gordon left.
Yeah, it's just like I like Javonte more in Dynasty.
Let's see what his ADP is at right now, according to fantasy data. He is the 9th running back off the board, so it's gone down a little bit recently.
It looks definitely like a lot of other running backs I'm taking over him.
Yeah,
I kind of forced myself to reach for him in best ball just to have some shares, but I hate it every time I do draft them.
And JL's back on the clock, and it looks like you sniped Brady, JL, by grabbing ETN, and then whoever grabbed Justin Fields, Gary, right before him, sniped Brady as well. And Z2 said Z2 is building from the AFC North.
I love it. Well, no.
What are you saying about Debo?
Yeah.
You know something we don't know, Z2?
Oh,
Debo getting traded to the AFC North.
Debo to the Ravens. Let's go.
Oh no!
Sorry, Rashad.
I'm about to say my Rashad Bateman. I told you
Bateman,
Higgins is my most. Rashad Bateman is probably number 2 for me.
I love Rashad Bateman.
JL, your team started out very unique for how your drafts usually start. I very rarely see you go the same position in the first 2 rounds, and especially not quarterback. You tend to follow the more balanced draft approach, but it looks like since then, you're kind of hitting that balanced draft approach. Maybe fewer running backs than you usually have at this point, but how do you feel about your roster construction so far, and how is it going to affect the way you're drafting going forward?
Mob rules snipes me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel great. I never necessarily lock into I'm going this position first.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is it
I think you're right about that. But I typically, if you look at my teams after 5 rounds, it's got some similar type of construction here. Maybe some variation at the positions, but I feel great about it. I want to prioritize wide receiver and QB in a super flex startup like this. So I'm always going to push running back, but if I can get like someone like ETN, who I feel pretty strongly about his talent, and I think that he's young, he's going to be a fantasy producer for a good amount of time. I'm happy taking him in the 4th round here to sort of balance this out.
Makes sense. I was just I was curious after your first 2 picks to kind of see how that looked through 5 rounds, and it looks you managed to make it work. It's looking pretty good. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I see Eli Moore go before Garrett Wilson a lot.
Say that again.
Yeah, I see Elijah Moore go before Garrett Wilson a lot.
Yeah,
I think I
would say the majority of time. Yeah. I like Garrett Wilson. I honestly, for this season, I'm taking Elijah Moore hands down. I just think, he proved that he's kind of ready to go. I would like to see a little bit more from Garrett Wilson on the field, but Garrett Wilson talent wise, like coming out of the draft, if we just take both of their like profiles coming out, like Garrett Wilson's the better talent, but Elijah Moore's.
Right, that's what I was surprised. I thought in Dynasty he would be at least a round or 2, but hey, I like it.
According to fantasy data, ADP, they're getting closer and closer together. Elijah Moore is now wide receiver 16. Garrett Wilson is wide receiver 18 in Dynasty startups this season. So they are sneaking close together at this point.
The Jets are building some guys.
Whoever gets the most training camp hype, that'll be that'll be that'll be who pushes up.
And it will be probably wrong, like the wrong person.
Exactly right. That's definitely one of those situations that, consensus is going to get wrong.
Yeah. I just wanted to zoom in over here for a second. I'm not sure I've ever seen this in one of our drafts where 3 teams in a row through 2 rounds went double quarterback. Man. Like they're the only teams that did it in that first round, the double quarterback, and it was all just back to back to back. Like you guys were waiting for the other person to pick one, and then you took the next guy.
I took Javonte Williams knowing that there was 3 teams that took a quarterback and hoping like maybe I could get one of Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts, or Trey Lance on the comeback, and it didn't happen. So,
when you're picking on that turn, man, it's scary passing up QBs.
Oh, you're on the clock. What?
Yeah.
That was. So, Josh, I'll ask you while Andrew's picking.
Yeah.
Josh, of those 3 sets of 2 quarterbacks, which one would you prefer to build your team around in Dynasty?
Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Josh Allen just is the number 1 for me, and then I'm higher on Jalen Hurts than most. Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, I would be tempted to say, but again, you might be sitting on Deshaun Watson for a year.
So if you swapped Jalen Hurts and Deshaun Watson, would you pick the Patrick Mahomes side, or would you pick the?
Yeah. It makes it more tough because, like I said, I have Josh Allen above Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts.
JL, are you sticking with your duo if you have to pick of those 3 duos, or do you like one of the other 2 duos better?
between these three.
Yeah, like just the duos of quarterbacks. You're building a dynasty team.
I like my duo the best.
Yeah, that's fair. I figured that would be the
answer. Your duo has the most talent.
Yeah, long-term talent. I believe in
and age, right? You could argue maybe Herbert Wilson, similar talent, but then
Josh
Wilson's a little bit older.
Jalen Hurts are the youngest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, compared to maybe the Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson side, there's more age over there as well. You've got the two young ones over here. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, I don't know. Like, is Jalen Hurts going to have 8 more years of? Is he going to be like
the question, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the Eagles are setting him up for success, right?
They are, or his what's it called? The person following him. It's not predecessor.
His successor for success.
yeah. Or they're setting up the successor. I don't.
100%. It's all about this year. If the Eagles are good this year, Jalen Hurts, I think, is back as their quarterback in 2023. If the Eagles are bad, they have a higher draft pick, and Jalen Hurts is out of there.
Oh, yeah. They at least want him to be the guy, unlike the Bears, who there's a different, the complete opposite story. But I think, they definitely are going to give him every opportunity to do it.
It's exactly how I would play the situation if I was them. Like, if you're playing the game, this is how I would set it up, right? Like, they're not in a good position to capitalize on getting a replacement for Jalen Hurts this year.
Right, not now. Yeah.
Yeah, so wait until they are in that position, or just ride out and see what comes to them, which they have done. We've seen with all of their offseason trades. It's just like basically waiting for value. It's been
Simon, load the draft.
It was only one pick.
Yeah, I know.
And it was a very good pick. Nice pick, Jordan. Nice pick, Jordan. 6th round for a borderline top 5 wide receiver for next season. Absolutely preposterous. You'll get the same rant every time Mike Evans is drafted. 8 consecutive
honestly, it really seasons.
Are you
value.
kidding me?
It's really
Chris
good
Godwin's
value.
going to be out for half the season. This is
maybe
robbery
of Mike Evans.
How many times have I heard this?
Season. I just don't know if Chris Godwin will be ready for the beginning of the season. I think he'll be ready. You know, he might start on the pop. So 6
guys. We had a couple questions in here.
November?
I think it was in November, Andrew. Scott wanted to know, guys. He said, I feel like every year teams draft new players and other players stop being on those teams. Sometimes players just flat out move to a different team. Seems relevant to fantasy football. Thoughts? Andrew, any thoughts on this phenomenon Scott is talking about? Have you ever experienced this yourself? Players just moving to different teams?
Wait. Are we talking about like NFL teams or?
Yeah, I think in the NFL is what he's talking about here.
Teams drafting players and other players stop being on those teams. Sometimes they flat out move to a different team's relevant.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really understand the question.
I'll give you a hint.
I have thoughts.
I'll give you a hint. Scott's being a jackass and asking a funny question. Yeah. He's just playing.
Okay, are we missing the joke? All right.
Scott's just messing with us. NBA has another question for us. This is, how are you guys' views of Doug Peterson as a coach? Is he still Super Bowl caliber? JL, you volunteered with that. Ooh, what do you think about Doug Peterson?
I said ooh because I don't know how I feel about Doug Peterson, honestly. I went through this whole exercise whenever he got hired for Jacksonville. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I don't know how much of his success in Philadelphia and some of the weird things that they did under his regime, how much of that was him versus someone, other people in the organization. So it's hard to tell. I don't know.
Scott, don't feel terrible.
No, I'm just.
I loved your joke, Scott. I was trying to set it up. I was trying to pitch it to Andrew and then to JL and then to Josh.
Sorry, Scott, I got Monday brain.
I liked
I'm
it.
Just kidding, Scott.
I had a whole spiel.
I tend to agree with you, JL, about Doug Peterson. But the one thing I will say is we saw him do really great things for the quarterback when he was in Philadelphia. So just from like a fantasy perspective, I'm excited about what he can do with Trevor Lawrence. It makes me more maybe excited for what he's going to do is the wrong word. It makes me more optimistic for Trevor Lawrence sophomore season with Doug Peterson being the coach there.
I'll tell you what, his offseason moves have not made it any clearer for me in terms of like confidence in him.
Yeah.
Well, how about this, guys? He won the Super Bowl in 2017. They went 13-3, but outside of that, his tenure with the Eagles 7-9, 9-7, 9-7, 4-11. I don't like Doug Peterson very much, and he's not being put in a great situation necessarily. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, all the upside in the world, but
spent $21 million on Christian Kirk. What are you doing? What are you doing?
blew up the wide receiver.
I wouldn't call him Super Bowl caliber.
I hope Christian Kirk. I'm not projecting it, but I hope Christian Kirk comes out and puts up like a top 5 wide receiver season. He's like, hell yeah, I'm the $21 million man, bitch.
That's
like
so
just.
I mean, honestly, I projected the Jaguars, and Christian Kirk comes out a little bit higher than I expected him to. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I do not like this spot right here.
Oh, well, Jalen's got some news for us. Judy limped the locker room with groin injury, but returns to practice.
Courtland Sutton, is he still available?
Thank God.
You got to love the dudes that, like, when news break out about a player and they're on the clock, they just automatically take them.
Josh, I saw you draft TJ Hawkinson here in the 6th round. You and Andrew went with tight ends, Darren Waller and TJ Hawkinson, opposite ends of the spectrum on the age. So, Andrew, you know what? Let's start with you since you picked your tight end first.
Neither one was going to be Waller for your next pick. Yeah,
right. You picked Waller over Hawkinson. Tell us a little bit about what makes you excited for Waller this coming season.
Yeah. So first, I think I decided to go tight end just because I'm one of those that like to go just tight end early in general. I know a lot of people like once you get past the top, 2 or 3, they just wait. For some reason, man, tight end has always been my Achilles heel with fantasy. Like last year, my dude was Jonnu. Like I thought he would do it. I was in on Evan Ingram so long. I'm like, I'm so bad at picking like those late end tight ends. So even I don't mind just kind of getting those, middle guys. And out of all of the I guess you would say second tier, or do you guys think Darren Waller is still a first tier for people? I guess based on this draft, I don't think so. He's probably
what do you mean the tight end
dynasty? I would
out of tight end. So is he still with like Kelsey?
I think we're looking at like 3 tiers on. I know it's a tough one. There's a tier of Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews, or maybe Kyle Pitts is in his own tier.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It is kind of an interesting time for tight end, right? It seems like kind of a change of the guards, but I just think out of all like the kind of that second tier, beyond Kelsey, Pitts, I think Waller still has the best upside. I mean, I like Hawkinson too, but I think he's going to end up being kind of like just one of those floor tight ends that just won't give you a lot of bust games, and Waller will give you more of those high end games. Even with Adams there, I don't really fade him that much for that.
Yeah, I still like Darren Waller. And we've seen his ceiling, right? We've seen that upside in that offense. We've seen him be a top 2, 3 kind of tight end. And I think he's still got some in him. But the volume.
29. When did you turn 30? Is it this year or next year?
I'm not sure. Josh, you're our ages guy. How old's Darren Waller?
If I had to guess, I would say he'll go through the season. It's probably like January.
This would be age 29. Okay.
September 13th is when he turns 30.
Another September.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he'll be 30 going into the next season. Okay. He kind of came on late though.
That's the research I should do before I pick him.
Now I will say Waller, when he's made his living, it's been on the back of a lot of targets. So it's kind of hard to see him getting a ton of targets this year. That's my main concern. And you mix in the age. That's why I would go Hawkinson above Waller. But I think Waller does have all the talent in the world. So
yeah, for sure.
I still like Waller.
Yeah, and I agree, and I'm with you. I think it will be somewhat of a downgrade, but that's why he's not being drafted in the 3rd round anymore. So yeah, now at the 6th round, I think we appropriately, kind of value him now. So he'll still kind of be at the top end of the 2nd tier of tight ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. TJ Hawkinson, I believe in the talent. I actually think he has proven on the field. He was getting a lot of targets last season, of targets, and you could say what you will about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think they'll get similar targets, and if you made me choose who's going to get more targets next year, I would lean TJ Hawkinson myself. When they were both on the field, that's who was getting more targets. Now, I still like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams, whenever he's fully ready to go, he's going to be involved, but I don't think he's going to be a high target guy, especially his rookie year. He's going to be more of that deep play guy, and they'll still try to get him the ball in creative ways because he's so explosive. But I don't know. I think TJ Hawkinson could easily lead the Lions in targets this season.
Yeah, I can see that too. Like I said, it was torn, even though I know the age gap is wide, and that's weird to be torn between 2 guys in the dynasty draft like that. But yeah, it was kind of a coin flip for me. Waller.
The Raiders' offense with all their weapons and just could be really good this season too.
All right, we can see the MVP card that we saw back in 16. Yeah, I know it was a while ago.
We got J-Wall and he's saying Josh is trying to trade away Jamison Williams.
I put him on the trade block in the league we're in together. And I did that because my team is so incredibly win now that like Jameson Williams, I don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of the season. And, rookie wide receivers don't typically put together very complete seasons. So I could really use, maybe, trading Jameson Williams for someone that's really going to give me a lot of fantasy points this year. But I don't want to give him away cheap either, though. So it's going to be tough.
We'll see. Keep us updated on that one, Josh. Guys, I'm looking at this draft right now, and I'm seeing a run of wide receivers that I love in this range. Like just these 2 rounds that I'm looking at. We've got Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Rashad Bateman, Cortland Sutton, Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, Darnell Mooney. It is just this seems like a pocket of wide receiver value right here in the middle. Whereas in the previous rounds, I love Terry McLaurin. I love Deontay Johnson, but the 2 rounds higher for those guys over a Marquise Brown makes me a little bit nervous with the question marks that we have surrounding players like that. I'm just loving the value.
Good area for wide receiver value. I completely agree, Simon. You can just
don't get me wrong. I'll take Deontay Johnson in a vacuum over Marquise Brown. But I will take Marquise Brown in the 7th round over Deontay Johnson in the 5th, or I will take Darnell Mooney in the 7th over Jerry Jeudy in the 5th. I just really like the value right here.
Huge tier right here.
It is a huge tier. Andrew, Josh and I were talking about that when we were doing our rankings. It seems like you get past the first couple tiers, and then there's just a giant tier of wide receivers that are all
That's why 20, I like to trade
20
back.
Guys.
Gaping tier.
Andrew mentioned it earlier. Trading back, once you hit that top tier of players, and especially any league, but you can really just eat up the value in these mid rounds.
So one of my goals in startups is I want to pick 12 times in the first 10 rounds. So usually I trade back twice between rounds, 2 and 8. So to me, I like this Cousins pick. I probably would have tried to trade this back too.
So what's your strategy for trading back? Because this is always something that I haven't really done a ton in practice. How do you think about constructing a trade offer to trade back?
Man, it's so tough because it just varies from league to league. So to me, my best advice, especially if you haven't done a lot, just don't be one of the first 1 or 2 to trade. Which I know a lot of dynasty people would tell you the opposite, you want to set the market. But if you aren't used to doing startup trades, I would advise against being the one to go out and set the market. So just see how much. All right, how much did they pay to move down 1 round? How much did they pay to move down 2 rounds? And just kind of start from there and just start sending out similar offers. I'm on the clock again. But again, I would just kind of use the market to gauge that. Because like you said, it's one of the hardest things really is evaluating startup trades because like I said, everybody just has such different valuations and just kind of depends.
Yeah, the value of picks I think changes a lot too because
for sure
you don't have names on those picks, and so I think if a lot of people might try. A lot of people will tend to use trade calculators or those types of things to gauge market value. And I think those are typically much farther off from reality that when it comes to startup picks specifically.
Yeah. Because it's just, if you think about it, just somebody else's opinion. So
right.
The trade calc, it was made by another human with an opinion.
Yeah.
Oh man. I'm gonna make a.
Oh, you got 10 seconds. Let me.
Yeah. No, I got it. Oh, I was about to do it.
Josh, how do you
do it? Y'all are not gonna like this pick, but I want to talk about this guy. So
I don't dislike it in the 8th round. But tell us a little bit about it, Andrew.
The Penn State running backs crew. Yeah, that's what you got.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I just think the hate is going too far. I mean, again, so yeah, he didn't become the top 10 running back that we all expected. After the blow up his rookie year, but I don't expect Kenny Gainwell to take his job like a lot of people think he will. So I know he kind of scored the touchdowns, but in a couple of those instances, it was a situation where Sanders had a 50, 60-yard run. He gets spelled out, and then Gainwell comes in and vultures the touchdown. I feel like that happened a couple of times, and people started saying that Gainwell was the goal line back, but no, that's not it at all. If anything, Jordan Howard competed with Miles Sanders for goal line carries. So now that he's gone, I think he'll go back to being that same goal line back, and I can see him kind of having that. You remember Melvin Gordon didn't score any touchdowns as a rookie, and everybody was just kind of so off of him and thought it was just something wrong with him. But I think the next year he scored 10. Now I'm not calling for 10 for Miles Sanders, but yeah, he's going to score some touchdown guys. It's going to happen.
Andrew, I'm with you at value. At value for Miles Sanders, I'm in. I feel like the risk is relatively low down here in the 8th round, and he's we're projecting him to be the starting running back to RB1 for a pretty run-heavy team, even if there is a quarterback stealing touches. I love that take. Man, Andrew, Before we move on, I know JL put a poll in there. Lots of people are talking about their favorite teams. Lots of love for JL's team. Saw some people saying the mob rule. Are there any teams that stand out to you so far through this point in the draft, Andrew?
Actually, yeah, let me do a quick glance over.
Yeah, the mob rules. Like he definitely sniped me a couple times.
Timo Brule, I think is how it's pronounced.
Timo Brule. I mean, that's actually I think how I try to pronounce it.
I like is it Swamp?
Swamp Nola?
6? Yeah, I like his team pretty good. Because yeah, I'm another guy that's pretty high on Jacobs. I think he's another good value.
Kenny Pickett as QB1 is terrifying to me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah, this is a Superflex draft.
You're looking at it, you're like, man, he's got some players. How did he do that?
When you ask me that, I'll be honest, I look zero at the other team. So I'm just
I completely get it. It's hard to just like get a read.
Andrew, until JL said Kenny Pickett as QB1 terrifies me. Like, I think he hadn't drafted a quarterback yet, and
that's why his team was my favorite. So good, right?
And then the second he took Kenny Pickett, I was like, "Oh wait, that's the first QB." Like it reminded me.
I was like, "Oh, those are some good picks." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you just."
It's one of my favorites, though. I'm not out on it though. Let's see how he gets that quarterback.
I don't know. Yeah, I think he's gonna have a tough time, to be honest. Now, but who knows? Yeah, Kenny Pickett could be, Justin Herbert. So.
We'll see. JL, I agree with the chat. I like your team a lot. You and Swamp, if Swamp can figure out quarterback, are two of my favorites, but that's a big if for Swamp's team right there. But I'm with Andrew on that.
I like JL and Gary. So 2 and 3. I mean, obviously like Watson, we'll see what happens with Watson. But I mean, if Watson can play, even if he plays like half the season this year, I think you're in a good spot to compete like right now and in the future. Yeah. And, I like Gary's teams too. Let me see. Yep, good solid
Gary's
quarterbacks.
Team is interesting for having gone 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. It's actually coming together.
Like, imagine if Breece Hall like just takes off and is a RB1 off the bat. Like, this
team, it's a weird wide receiver core, but it might work.
Elijah Moore, Keenan Allen, I'm a lot more comfortable with than Ayuk, but there's still wide receiver value.
Wide receiver 3, yeah, you can do worse.
He can pull this together.
Brandon Cooks, Simon.
What did you say?
So Brady said, "I built the windmill monster," but I think he's talking about JFU.
He needs Cooks.
Yeah, Cooks. His sleeper crash.
Okay, yeah, I got you. If
Come on,
load.
Sleeper. What do we pay you
I think
money
there
for?
we go. Yeah, we pay $1,000 for every person in this draft every week, and they can't even get this working.
$1,000 a seat.
$12,000 for us to do this every week, and they can't even get it. And Twin says, take a poll. Does Simon look more like Herbert or Pickett? Is this just a generic white guy?
They look more like each other than Simon looks to either of them.
If I look like anyone in the NFL, it's I thought I would have someone ready, but it didn't come to me.
Mitchell Trubisky.
No, do not put that on me. Maybe Hunter Renfrow, but in
Mike
his grapes
Glennon.
holding days, not in his he's got the same hairline as I do. You know what I mean? A little bit balding. Looks like a very unintimidating 5'10", 185 pound white guy. Like just kind of like got a dad bod going on.
He's a delightful human.
He is a delightful human. So I guess that's where we stop being the same. Excuse me right there. JL, you just went with Damian Harris, who we've talked about a lot, I feel like, in the past week on the show. We just learned earlier Joshua picked McNichols over Damian Harris. And I see you would I see you would take Harris over McNichols, though. Oh, was he talking about Najee Harris? I just assumed.
Yeah, well, we were talking about Najee Harris when he said it.
How do you feel about the value you got on Damian Harris? Do you think this is fair? Do you think he's being slept on, or do you think this is about where he should go?
I think this is about where he should go. I think it's a fine at cost value here. I did it because I'm more we get running back. I'm going to need to field running backs this season, and Damian Harris to me is there's a tier break after him here. I'm not super hyped for him, but he's a good stopgap. So this is what I like to do a lot in startup dynasty drafts is like not even worry too much about running back, like be kind of weak going into that, coming out of the draft, and then just focus on trading and bolstering that position.
Yeah, and JL, I like the strategy you took. Wait till the end, and then there's a couple guys who are the presumed starters for their team, but people aren't excited about. They're boring starters that you can get near the ends of drafts or late in drafts. I mean, just look at the last 2 rounds. Miles Sanders, Elijah Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris. These are all the projected starting running backs for their teams in the 8th and 9th rounds. You can build around those guys with elite wide receivers. So I love that strategy, JL.
This is like look at Rashad Bateman or Garrett Wilson and say, all right, what if I went running back there? Look at the running backs who went who were available, who went around those picks. there's not a ton of upside with those guys. And so I'd rather get the high upside wide receivers here and go Damian Harris down here, because now if you look at the available wide receivers, I don't see a ton of upside. There's a lot of question marks. It's definitely like possible upside. You got Christian Watson, you got Sky Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Gabe Davis, who everyone loves. But I would much rather have the upside on the wide receivers and the young talented wide receivers than on the running backs around, that 6th or 7th round.
And you're getting upside with a little bit more floor in those earlier rounds, right? It's not like Christian Watson, Sky Moore don't have upside, but there's no safe floor for those guys. Whereas like a Rashad Bateman, I feel like he's got a floor being the top receiving wide receiver in Baltimore. And he also has that insane upside, that 150 target kind of upside in that Baltimore passing offense. That's a great point, JL. Andrew, you just took Michael Thomas. It's been interesting to me every single draft to see where Michael Thomas goes. It seems to be all over the place. Sometimes he's going in the 7th round. Sometimes he's all the way down here in like the 10th. How do you feel about Michael Thomas going into next season?
Yeah, so I'm at the point now where I've kind of decided, all right, this is going to be more of, again, not like an all-in win-now team, but I'm definitely looking to be that competitive right away. And I mean, I just think, again, with the injury concerns, obviously it's not the best, or it's not ideal that he's still not practicing now. But if you think about it, like what is the reason for them to risk, even if there's a 1% risk, what is the reason for him to risk, involuntary workouts or involuntary OTAs or whatever they're calling them right now? I think if he's still not practicing and they get to, mandatory minicamp, then yeah, I would raise the red flag. But for now, I think they're just, being overly cautious and just like making sure he doesn't have any more setbacks. And I'm all in on the Jameis comeback trade too. I mean, he's not the best NFL quarterback, but for fantasy, yeah, you're more than happy to have somebody like Jameis.
I'm not convinced he's a bad NFL quarterback. What we did see in New Orleans was pretty good. It didn't look like the old school,
it was a small sample, but
interception throwing Jameis. We could be seeing a Jameis that's maybe upgraded, and we got robbed of a good season of him playing last year. But I'm with you. I'm buying into Jameis, and I think at cost, you can't go wrong with Michael Thomas there. I also think this last team that's auto drafting is listening to us, because we mentioned Williams saying that Josh was trying to trade him, gets drafted. JL, you say out loud, Christian Watson, Gabriel Davis. He drafts both of them. Sleeper Google are connecting. They're listening in on us. They're all about to start showing up on our TikTok algorithms as well. Oh, no. BroCal is the TikTok algorithm. That's what's going on. Josh, you took your 3rd quarterback, and your quarterback room is very young. You've got Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Davis Mills. Your quarterback room is so yum.
So delicious.
Which one's the yummiest, Josh?
Fun fact, I have Chris Godwin here who's 26 years old. You want to know my next oldest person?
Tua.
23.
24 years old, Tua Tagovailoa.
That is
he's 24 years old. The rest of them are 23, 22. I have a very young team all in all. I love this team for Dynasty. I like my quarterbacks. I got them late. I like my core of wide receivers and running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I get why people, don't want anything to do with him, but,
I like
there's a narrative.
Rojo is going to
what he had the injury come in the last year. You think Rojo's going to be a good value?
I said him or Rojo will end up.
So Rojo has stone hands, right? I think a lot of people would agree with that statement. He's not the best pass catcher. He's just not a good pass catcher. That's as simple as that. Who's catching passes? The running back position for the Chiefs caught a lot of passes with Patrick Mahomes, kind of changing that offense. Let me make this pick real fast. They kind of changed that offense, had more short passes involved, towards the later half of the year, a lot of pass catching for the running back. Darrell Williams got a lot of those. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire's their best pass catching back right now. I think he's primed for a pretty good season, and his value is going to skyrocket if he's with the Chiefs and playing pretty well. And his yards per carry has always been solid.
He also had we found out he had the gallbladder situation.
Exactly.
Yep, going in camp. That's a big deal.
Guys, we've made a big faux pas. I don't know who was running this account. I don't know who put it in there. Said, if you are human, hit that like button and subscribe to FYF for more fantasy football goofs and games. Immediately excluding a major part of our audience. Mr. Scampers cannot
Cats aren't
like
human.
the video.
Cats aren't human?
Cats
aren't human. And then Scott, taking it a step further, calling us out on our grand plan. We're cross-checking the chatters with the likes to figuring out which of you guys are not human. It is true. If you don't like it, we'll know you're not human, and we will report you to the people that are in charge of that. I think it's the Men in Black, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, Will Smith.
Yeah, we'll have to call Will Smith directly.
And that other guy.
And Agent J, I think his name was, right?
Yep.
Or was he K? One of them was J and one of them was K. I can't remember which was which.
I don't know what to do here.
Oh. And NBA says, Josh, you don't think Sky Moore can be the slot pass catching machine in that offense?
He can be, but I am not betting on it year one. I mean, he played at a small school. He was asked to, really do limited things when he was in college. And they have Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a slot receiver right there that they gave a big contract to. I do think Sky Moore best profiles as a slot receiver, but if you had to make me choose between the two, I'm picking Juju. I think he's a little bit more just NFL. I mean, he's been playing in the league for 4 years now, and he's pretty dang well. He's had one top 10 season. I have him projected to be the number one target on the offense, but still Sky Moore for Dynasty. I think this is pretty good value for him.
Number one target on the offense, just wide receivers.
Travis Kelce.
Okay.
Yeah, Travis Kelce.
Okay.
Juju, number one wide receiver target.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Just wanted to make sure because I feel like that was about to be a little bit bold if you predicted Juju with more targets than Travis Kelce next year. I wanted to hear that reasoning right there.
Thank you for spotting that.
Or you got killed.
Scott in here saying, I will say FYF is currently the number one fantasy football based YouTube game show to leave on for your pets while you run errands. That is true.
I agree.
Cats love us.
Yep.
I don't know what it is. We just speak to cats. I think all of us have dogs, but cats are big fans of us. Yeah, the dogs like to live in our house, but the cats like to watch us, I think is what's going on here. Say it's one-sided. I love cats.
Except for Mr. Scampers.
They just can't live here because my girlfriend's allergic. You can live on the front porch though.
Oh, I don't know what to do with this big guys. Oh God, no.
You've got 1 second.
Right person. I mean,
okay.
Come on.
I would have drafted Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't know about that.
Now you can not know which one of them to start every single week.
I can't wait.
Now, before JL,
do not like this spot of the draft.
Before, when you only had Damian Harris, you could only make the wrong decision about half the time, right? Only whenever it wasn't a Damian Harris week. Now you can make the wrong decision every single week. Like if it's a Ramondre week, you can start Damian. If it's a Damian week, you can start Ramondre.
Yeah.
And now you got to follow that with Pierre Strong in the 12th.
Pierre Strong. James White still there?
And NBA Rig said, yes, Dynasty, Juju will be gone in 3 years. Sky Moore will take over. Yeah, in Dynasty.
In 3 years?
With that. Juju could be gone next year. He only has one contract. Yeah. I mean, 1 year on his contract.
That's a lot. That's pretty far out to predict.
But, if you ask me just for next season. Yeah. I like Sky Moore.
Yeah, the draft gets a little bit gross in here. But then at running back, then you look at wide receiver, there's still some decent names like Tyler Lockett in the 11th round. Are you kidding me? That's pretty good value. Daniel Jones, I think, is fine. Calvin Ridley,
Daniel Jones
play for a whole year.
That's a good QB3.
I chose David Davis Mills in the 9th round because I saw Jameis Winston go the pick before him, and I just assumed that there was going to be slim pickings in the 10th round. But I would have been fine getting Daniel Jones or Carson Wentz, honestly, instead of Davis Mills.
Really, what Swamp? George Pickens' nickname, Slim.
Swamp. I'm going to say your quarterbacks turned out good enough, I think, for your team to still be my favorite. I am totally fine with a Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones starting quarterback duo and Superflex with the strength you have at your other positions. That's the late.
Here's an argument to be made that none of these quarterbacks are the starter next year.
There is an argument to be made.
The following season.
Well, Kenny Pickett will be.
I would say Pickett has a good chance.
Yeah, Pickett should be. He better be. The Steelers messed up. It's a bust if he's not. So.
Wentz and Jones are on short leases.
But I feel like the way that he built his team, he's going for it.
It went well. Yeah, it went well considering. Yeah.
It could have been really gross, right? That quarterback situation could have been way worse.
He could have been rocking with Malik Willis and Matt Corral. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been rough. Oh, look at this running back run going on at the back end here. We've got Isaiah Spiller, Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, James Robinson.
I was hoping Ronald Jones would be there for my last pick. I couldn't take him over George Pickens.
I'm not.
Yum.
But
I'm surprised some of the names going ahead of guys like Ronald Jones and Kareem Hunt, like honestly, Isaiah Michael Spiller. Carter, Dameon Pierce, Isaiah Spiller, those names in particular. Would any of you guys take any of those running backs, Michael Carter, Dameon Pierce, Isaiah Spiller, ahead of Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones?
It doesn't bother me at all.
Doesn't bother you?
I wouldn't, but yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely take Hunt over everybody here. Like I got sniped on my Hunt picks. Yeah, I definitely would have loved to get Hunt here.
I
And
thought about getting
Rojo. I mean, yeah, I think he's just kind of in the mix with all these guys. Like Singletary, Edmonds.
Yeah.
So Brady's in here saying Gabe Davis is the wide receiver 25 in 2022 underdog ADP, but goes as the wide receiver 54 here, even though he's only 23 years old. So I think there's a couple things going on here, Brady. One, the sleeper ADP updates at different intervals. And so maybe he's further down the list, and so people aren't seeing him or thinking about him. Another one going on is I think Gabe Davis is being wildly overvalued by a lot of the community going into this year based on what we saw in the postseason last year and his breakout towards the end of the year. Maybe and whenever whenever we have a small group of people here who are involved enough in the fantasy community, maybe that they're paying a little bit more attention than to just the hype. And so Gabe Davis value gets pushed down further. Maybe everyone here is really
and it's best ball.
And it's best ball, which I think Gabe Davis does get a boost.
It shouldn't create that kind of separation. Don't get me wrong.
No.
I think the real story is somewhere in the middle, though. He's got to prove a lot this season still. He really hasn't shown much on the field outside that one amazing game.
54 seems low, though, but 25 seems way too high.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's definitely in between there. But for me, I tend not to have a lot of Gabe Davis. I like guys that earn targets. So you can see even me, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I took Tony over Gabe Davis just because, again,
Gabe Davis was before him.
Sorry. So, all right, from the screen, I can't actually see the numbers. It's kind of blurry. So,
no, it's okay.
Yeah, you're right. I would have taken him two before Gabe Davis.
You're on the
because again, I like guys that earn targets. All right, let me see.
And Kadarius Toney could come in next year and be the number one receiving target for the Giants. Gabe Davis really doesn't have that built in, but he's in a much better situation. So,
I think I'd take Gabe Davis over Kadarius Toney.
Yeah,
I think I would as well, but it's not as that's a conversation. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't hate the other side, and that alone says that I think Gabe Davis is being overvalued.
Yeah. I think none of us being Gabe Davis truthers on the show. Definitely, we just don't talk about him as much either, so that might be affecting it.
54. That's pretty low.
Also, Kevin in here. What's up, Kevin? Said Gabe Davis isn't coming off the field in two wide receiver sets. It's going to be Crowder. The best ability is availability. He should be available.
He is coming off the field, or
so he said he's not. The Gabe Davis isn't coming off the field.
But he said it's going to be Crowder.
Right, so is Diggs coming
Crowder
off the field?
is the one coming off the field, is what he said.
Oh, it's going to be Crowder coming off. Okay, I get what he's saying.
Yep.
Well, they kind of, they're different receivers when it comes down. Crowder's a slot receiver, and Gabe Davis profiles as a outside receiver. So it's going to depend on what they need in the situation, I think. So I don't think Gabe Davis is going to play, 80% of snaps, 70 maybe.
Yeah, I don't think this offense
right behind him.
Yeah.
I don't think this offense is necessarily built to funnel through individual players. I think they're going to piece it together.
Yeah.
And so that makes me think that, Gabe Davis, that predictable volume that everyone's expecting, or that is the underlying assumption to his price at this point, it's a little shaky. Not saying that it won't happen that way, because it is a high-powered offense. And there aren't a ton of options there currently with Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders gone, but I would be worried to take him as a wide receiver too, expecting that.
So I would challenge the X. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to ask you, are you including Diggs in that when you say won't funnel through a particular receiver? Or are you saying after Diggs, it'll be just kind of week to week?
I think they have to actively go out of their way to funnel targets to Diggs. And I think they do that because he's their all-star. But I don't think that the offense is necessarily built in a way that's like the Packers has been in the past.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying, right.
Specifically for Devontae Adams. There's actual, Aaron Rodgers picks his guys. I don't think that happens as much in Buffalo.
Gotcha.
I would also challenge the assumption that Gabe Davis is going to automatically just stay on the field significantly more this year, like you were saying, JL. And then we talk about the other names leaving. Like you mentioned, Cole Beasley. Gabe Davis had his highest on-field snap percentage was 39.1% during that stretch, most of them below 20 or even 15% last year. He wasn't on the field very often. Whereas Cole Beasley,
he was on the field. So I guess that's the argument.
I'm looking at the game by game right now for Gabriel Davis, and he had one game over 30%. That's it. Snap percentage.
So I'm looking like weeks 14, 15, 17, 18.
I was looking at special teams. Is the wrong aisle I was looking at. So that would explain it right there.
But at the same time, I think Gabe Davis, when you look at this draft, I think he fits more in with the guys drafted in the 7th round than in the 10th round. So I do believe he was a hell of a value in this draft. I do believe that.
You think he was a value here at wide receiver 54?
Yeah, I know he was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty good about that.
Just a quick stat: Gabe Davis led his team. If you just look at fantasy points per 100 snaps, according to fantasy data, led his team 69 fantasy points per 100 snaps. The next closest player on his team is Josh Allen at 65.7. Then the next closest is Devin Singletary at 35.3. So that tells me he's being hyper efficient. He was hyper efficient with what he was doing this past season. Yeah,
he's good.
So if the volume increases, that's great for him. I don't know if that's going to be true.
Yeah, that's where I tend to lie as well. I was just going to point out the Cole Beasley was seeing a massive target share last year in the slot. That position's not going to go away. They've got Crowder in there now. Guys, this was a really fun draft. Felt like there was a lot of interesting picks that we were able to talk about today. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on and imparting your draft knowledge on us during the show today. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Like I said, I always have a good time.
We love when you
make it 6 months.
Yeah.
There we go. We need to get you back a lot sooner than that. Guys, if you are not already following our friend Andrew over on Twitter, go and fix that right now. He's on Twitter at DrewMet_FF. It is right down there on his screen. An unbelievable follow. So make sure you guys go and follow him over there. After you do that, make sure you subscribe to our channel at Front Yard Fantasy. You're there already. You're watching this video. Just make sure you hit that sub button. We will be back tomorrow and every day, Monday through Friday, at 3 p.m. Eastern time, playing some fantasy football game show games. Scott Fish, if you're still watching, don't worry. Tomorrow is a game show game coming your way, so you can play along in the chat. Until then, though, we are out of here. Adios, everybody, and thank you, everyone, for drafting along. We'll see you tomorrow.
Trading me's fantasy fun.
Hey! Yes, it does.
Bill, I don't know if I love them yet. You can't just say that for all of us.
We like you. Yeah.